The 2025 NBA draft class has serious implications for the Philadelphia 76ers, and they had to hit on this number 3 and number 35 overall pick. The number 3 pick being VJ Edgecombe, obviously important as a player being selected that high, is looked at as a potential franchise cornerstone. But for a Philadelphia 76ers team that's in a bit of a limbo between transitioning to a youthful run and a youthful period, and then also a team that's still trying to win now, it was just as important, I think, at least in the immediate future, that they hit on this number 35 pick. And at the time of the selection, selecting Johni Broome at number 35 overall, I wasn't convinced that it was the right pick, that it was the good pick for the Philadelphia 76ers. As Daryl Morey stated multiple times throughout this all season, the goal was to get younger and more athletic, and he hasn't really followed through on those comments. Yes, VJ is one of the more athletic players probably in the NBA from day one, and a young player as well. Sure, that fits the profile. But bringing back Kyle Lowry, bringing back Eric Gordon, being forced to have Andre Drummond back from a previous contract, and then going out and selecting Johni Broome, who's arguably going to be one of the least athletic players in the NBA from day one, and he hasn't really shown much athleticism or anything to really stand out thus far in Summer League as well. I think the pick is looking more and more like it is going to be a fail. And let's give the guy some time. Sure, I think he's still a good basketball player. He brings a little bit of different stuff to the table that we'll get into and talk about. But I think it was a selection at 35 with other guys on the board that I would have much rather had for this Philadelphia 76ers team in the immediate future and going forward. And the Sixers wind up selecting Johni Broome. And sure, we're just a few games into Summer League. His NBA career is not over by any stretch. But it's a selection that the more I watch him, the more I just don't see that NBA type of it factor that is really going to, help him stick around. What is he going to do really well at the next level? Is he going to be, a stretch big? He's shown the ability to kind of step out and shoot a little bit. I still don't think that's great. He's never going to be a great athlete in the league. He's not going to be a high-level defender. He's a very good passer. He does the dirty work, I think. He rebounds. He plays hard. But what's his kind of calling card? What's going to be his swing skill, his sticking trait at the NBA level? I don't really think he has that at his disposal, and that just leads to me more believing that number 35 overall pick with Johni Broome, kind of went to waste and is not going to be a valuable player for the 76ers team going forward in the future. And this video is coming off the back of probably his best showing so far in the Summer League, so, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt today, but, he had a solid performance last night. I'm not going to go out of my way to say it was a great game. He had 22 and 13, sure, a double-double. Not that efficient, though. 8 of 19, 4 of 11 from 3. As I said at the beginning, kind of like him showing the ability to step out and shoot the 3 ball, being a little bit more comfortable. But in an NBA game, he's never going to take 11 3-pointers. I would probably put my life on that right now, that there will never be an actual NBA game that Johni Broome goes out there and shoots 11 3-pointers, and, especially this year. And if that does happen, the 76ers are the worst team in the NBA this season. But you look up and down the roster, from the guys that kind of just played last night's Summer League game against the Mavericks, Hunter Sallis on a two-way. Judah Mintz has shown good flashes in the G League. Outside of these guys, are there really any other NBA players on that roster? No, Johni Broome being the second-round draft pick, he was kind of given, I think, the green card, or the green flag last night. The green light. Used the wrong term twice. The green light last night, just basically kind of go out there and hoop, do whatever you want. But you just watch it. You can't look at the box score and be like, oh, a double-double, that's great. You watch him play, and it just doesn't really have that. He just doesn't really stick out to you as an NBA player. Hell of a college player. I think, in spurts, he could maybe be a solid rotational guy, but I think that 76ers pick went to waste, and I think it could have gone to much better use. When you look at even some of the guys that were on the board that were available when the Sixers did pick Johni Broome. The pick right after, Adu Thiero. I think Adu Thiero is going to be not an awesome NBA player, but a really solid NBA player. He's going to the Lakers. I think he's got upside to tap into, still younger than Johni Broome. I think he's going to be a player at the next level. Elijah Martin, I think, fits that Raptors culture perfectly. He's going to be a really solid player. Would have been a great fit for Philly, potentially no, but, a lockdown defender on the perimeter, a guy with a really hard motor. Kobe Bryant, one of the best shooters, probably the best shooter in the entire draft. He's going to enter the league and be one of the top shooters, I think, in the league from day one. Maxine Reynaud, a high-level big man that people are very high on, and the potential that he has. Jameer Watkins, another player right here that had 8 steals the other day in Summer League, would have been an awesome addition to the Sixers roster, just in the backcourt, being a defensive pest, a guy that goes in there and plays 10 to 12 minutes a game and just disrupts people, at the guard spot and on the wing. I just named off 4 or 5 players right there that I would have selected over Johni Broome. And as I said, still the beginning of his career. It's a young stage of this, but he's a player that, outside of maybe developing into more of a stretch forward, being able to knock down that 3-point shot at a more consistent level. I don't think there's much more to tap into because it's not like he's young. He's already 22 years old. I think already going to be, or already 23 years old, going to be 24 by the time the season starts. He's not an athlete. He doesn't have, any flash really to his game. He just kind of is what he is at this point. And if the Sixers are content with that, they're content with that. Maybe he plays, some spot backup minutes at the 4. I don't really think you're ever going to play him at the 5 at the NBA level. But it's a player that the Sixers, I think, needed to hit on. It was important to get a cheap young player under contract that they could rely on and be able to go out there and consistently play minutes. And I just think that this is looking more and more like it's going to be a miss. And it's young in his career. We can't write off a player in Summer League, but I think it kind of the writing's on the wall that, Johni Broome's probably going to be a player that's out of the NBA within a few years and probably maybe floating on a two-way contract back and forth in a year or two, or just be a G League player or a guy that's going over and playing overseas. And it's nothing really against him. It's just I don't think he has what it takes to be a full-time rotational NBA player, and that was one of the goals of this draft. Getting a player that could be a star at number 3, I think, was a main goal, obviously, and then getting a rotational piece at number 35 on a cheap contract. And I think the Sixers swung and missed with this draft pick. And I'll give Daryl Morey the benefit of the doubt for the time being, because if he has done one thing well, it has been drafting during his time with the Sixers, but hasn't been an encouraging start for me from the eye test watching Johni Broome. And when you kind of look at the rotation, the projected rotation here they were shown the other night during Summer League, it's a crowded backcourt. So you could say, why would you have taken a guard? But maybe to take a wing. Ricky Council, we're not counting on him for minutes. I think a guy like Aduthiero could have gone in there, or a guy like Jameer Watkins that I just talked about could have gone in there. The 4 spot is still a massive question mark. Justin Edwards probably not playing the 4 much. He's probably playing more the 3. But Trendon Watford, Jabari Walker, his name's not on here. But those are 2 guys. And then Alex Reese, they have him still on here. But that's going to be Dominic Barlow's spot. But at the 4, it's a bit of a logjam right now. I think we could say that in the front court a little bit, even to get for minutes. And that's not saying much with the lack of talent really at the 4 or, in the front court in general behind Joel Embiid. But it is a bit of a logjam for minutes there right now. Like, he's going to be fighting with Watford. He's going to be fighting with Barlow for minutes. It's a spot where I think you much more could have selected a guy on the wing potentially, or another center maybe even in Renown. But a guy like Jameer Watkins or a guy like Aduthiero I think was much more of a better fit and an ideal selection for the 76ers roster. And you can't even use the excuse like, all right, we're not drafting for fit, we're drafting for best player available. I quite frankly don't think Johni Broome is the best player available. I don't think I think his best basketball is behind him, quite frankly, at the college level. I don't think we're ever going to see him be the player that he was in college at the NBA level. So it's a head-scratching move. It was a head-scratching move at the time, and it hasn't really changed my mind since. I'm rooting for Broome, obviously, being on the Sixers and having the chance to rewrite the narrative, but I think it's a long road ahead for him to becoming a consistent NBA player, and a guy that the Sixers can count on in the rotation. He's going to have the opportunity to fight for minutes this year, but I think if he's out on the floor, that's a negative for the Sixers, and they're going to struggle during his minutes on the floor. So remains to be seen. A lot of basketball hopefully left in his career, and as we said, we're not rooting against him, but it's just hard to wrap your mind around him becoming a high-level rotation player in the NBA. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What you've seen from Johni Broome, what you see in Summer League in general. Is there anyone you would like to see in these last couple games maybe get a little bit more of an extended run? Judah Mintz has looked good in spurts. Mark Armstrong had a really nice performance last night. Any other guys in the comments below, I'd love to see what you guys say and think, big picture-wise about Johni Broome and his future with the Sixers. But as always, please drop a like, please drop a subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time here on Sixers Digest.